So, good evening or good morning, depending on where you are in the world joining us. Today's session is very different as we are now well set to provide 360-degree support to community health challenges like diabetes and metabolic diseases. Now, what does that mean, you might ask? Well, we started in 2018 with education and awareness on diabetes, and we rolled out to thousands of people worldwide to our conferences, workshops, and webinars. And today we have diabetes health heroes inspiring us, and some of them are here today attending this session, and we will get to hear from them. Additionally, we offer support groups for people with diabetes where members get a deep dive on specific challenges and evidence-based proven practices, where we learn from one another, where we cross-pollinate ideas from experts all over the world, as well as health heroes, people like you who are dealing with these challenges yourselves in your day-to-day lives. We've gone even further to launch the diabetes course and find that there are already 23 people are ready to join this course. So CWC is trying to help you prevent diabetes and find smart solutions if you happen to already have diabetes or metabolic diseases and are struggling. So it's good news, you're not alone. We are with you, and we have experts and health heroes to help you along the way. Today's session is extra special because we have our own lifestyle medicine certified and board certified endocrinologist, Dr. Soham Patel, who is joining us all the way from Tampa, Florida. And he's been helping with various other activities, including the diabetes course, which he was pivotal in helping us develop. With him, we have two other pioneers who are representing companies working on smart solutions to track and improve the management and treatment of diabetes. Welcome, Alodip Sanyal, CEO of Life Plus AI, and Piyush Gupta. There's Alodip. Hi, Alodip. Welcome. And we also have Piyush Gupta, who's the CEO of Ambrosia Systems. And
Hi,
they're
everyone.
coming up with, there he is. Hi, Piyush. Welcome. Two very different approaches where we use technology, where we use AI, where we use wearable devices to help inspire, educate, and empower you, our community member, to have an impact so that you can have agency on your own health and to be the best version of yourself. Thereafter, we'll have Dr. Soham Patel come back to offer some practical solutions, some tricks and tips that he has up his sleeve in his learning from his experience as a board certified endocrinologist and a diplomat of the American Board of Lifestyle Medicine, where we have both served together, he and I, and that's actually how we met. So without further ado, let me call on Dr. Soham Patel to get us started.
I'm a lifestyle-focused endocrinologist, and that's my practice that I run here in Tampa, Florida. You see that picture of this, huge mountain peak there, and the reason I put it there is because many times for people, diabetes, especially for tonight's discussion, we're going to focus on type 2 diabetes, metabolic disease, it is like going on top of a mountain. There are so many challenges. You can also think of it as a rubric where there are so many moving parts, and we have to align each part, to get the colors and the squares right. And I'm going to try to kind of unpack and demystify this, as best as I can. So some of the big challenges I've seen with dealing with the patients suffering from metabolic disease, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes over the last decade plus is what the heck do I eat, right? It's such a confusing situation, and there's so much information out there, rightly or wrongly. And there's good sources of information. There are some not so good sources of information. It is very challenging. Even as a physician, many times I have to delve deep into different aspects to tease out what's good, what's not good. So I can imagine that challenge for someone who keeps getting bombarded with the latest fad of whatever is going on at the time. But if you really look at the evidence over the last many decades, there's a kind of consistent theme that I'll talk about in the next through this presentation. So one is, what the heck do I eat? Do I eat keto? Do I eat vegan? Do I eat this? Do I eat that? low fat, high protein, low protein, all kinds of confusion. Second challenge I see all the time is, how much exercise do I need to do, or I'm not exercising enough and hence I have diabetes. Many times, people have a very high um, sense of expectation, uh, from activity, or they feel too challenged to do that. So again, there are things which we can, demystify there. Good sleep or good sugars, right? It's like the chicken or the egg kind of thing. If you have good sleep, you will wake up with better sugars. But if you didn't get good sleep because your sugars were running high, you are using the bathroom frequently to pee, your sleep gets affected, your sugars are running high, and sugars running high leads to more problems. So it's a cycle that we want to break. And then how can we sustain changes? It's again, like I mentioned earlier with the nutrition part, it's not about the latest fad diet. You want to work on a system that becomes your new lifestyle. Because yo-yoing actually creates more damage to your health, than doing nothing. Maybe either scenario is not good, but yo-yoing is really bad. So how do we create sustainable lifestyle changes that can stick for the rest of our life? So when there are challenges, there are also opportunities. And again, you could get to eat more food and not have to portion control or calorie count, which is so much ingrained. Many times I encounter with diabetes, but there's actually a way to eat more food, feel better, and get better sugars without having to restrict yourself with calorie counting or portion control. You can be active and have fun having it, and not be stressed about, oh, I need to do this much or that much exercise, or spend hours in the gym. There are many ways to do things without losing your mind. Getting to sleeping like a baby again. How we all see, or have encountered, babies that sleep so deep and peacefully, and as we grow, somehow our sleep patterns with our modern lifestyle takes a beating. So getting back to being able to get that good night's sleep. And again, how can we permanently transform our life and not yo-yo? So these are the challenges, and we want to have a sustainable system that can unshackle us from the difficulties and challenges of type 2 diabetes. Because if we don't handle this, head on, it leads to so many complications. You get, eyes can get affected, you can get stroke, you can get heart attacks, you can have liver problems, you can have gut problems, you can have kidney problems, you can have circulation issues in your hands and legs, amputations, all kinds of things that you want to avoid. And also, I want to spend a few seconds and also reinforce this thought that it is possible to turn this train wreck, health journey of metabolic disease and type 2 diabetes, and step by step work on improving your health, where you can potentially reverse type 2 diabetes. Again, each case to case varies, but again, if you look at data over many decades, it is possible to reverse insulin resistance, which is the core reason for metabolic disease. And in that process, you can work on step by step improving your diabetes and regaining back your health. I'm going to stop at this point and pass the baton to Dr. Aladip Sanyal to talk about the technological solutions that his company and him have come up with. And I'll come back a little bit later again to talk about, what I can share in terms of tips and tricks to improve your health. So over to Aladip.
I wanted to start with a couple of my own realization about the space of diabetes management and overall chronic disease management as we started this journey and as we have been working on coming up with the product. The observation one was exactly what you mentioned, Dr. Patel, that the management of type 2 diabetes is not only the right medication and adhering to the medication. It is much more than that. It's a disease that has very close association with your lifestyle and your daily choice of meal, activity, sleep, emotional conditioning. All these collectively play an important role in effective management and maybe even reversal of the impaired glucose tolerance level. So our product, and I will come to our product slightly later, tries to address this as a holistic problem, that it is not only the adherence to the medication but much more ingrained into your life itself. And how can technology provide the right data and feedback in real time to individuals to improve on this decision making, in terms of the meal choices they have, in terms of the activity they could have, in terms of how to control the emotional up and downs throughout the day, and a good sleep. All these factor could be much more ingrained and much more controlled and tightened if someone gets to know the information right at the right nick of time. So we are trying to come up with a product that will slowly start addressing those data points and those feedback in real time, and I'll come to that. And the second observation I wanted to mention is we started seeing a surge of literature in last 5 years, maybe even last 10 years, that the glucose intolerance is not only cannot not only be monitored by glucose. It is not only a metabolic dysfunction. The cardiovascular parameters are also can be very closely associated with proper tracking of diabetes. For example, the heart rate and heart rate variability, blood pressure. We have started seeing that there is a huge overlap in US and worldwide between the diabetes population and the hypertension population. As a matter of fact, in US adults, more than 50% people with diabetes also has hypertension and other forms of cardiac issues. So this is also an important observation, that from the physiological parameters and data point of view, maybe monitoring glucose level effectively throughout the day and week is of course definitely a very good thing. I mean, we started from discrete measurement of blood glucose by finger stick glucometers. Then the continuous glucose monitors gave us a lot more information throughout the day and week, longitudinal time series glucose data, what happens during the fasting, what happens during a meal, after 2 hours of a meal. But along with the continuous glucose data, if we have additional parameters such as your blood pressure, your heart rate variability, you also get a lot more information, and they're correlated as well. You get a much more holistic perspective about your cardiovascular and metabolic health, which are quite highly overlapped. So these are the two observations with which we started working on a product, and I would like to share a couple of slides to give you an overview of what we have been thinking along that line. We are working on a product that tries to monitor multiple parameters in a 100% time synced way continuously throughout the day. Let me show you the product itself. This is a device that we created. It's in the form of a smartwatch at this point, but it's really a form factor agnostic device. You can also have a wristband with or without display, or you can even have a product similar to a continuous glucose monitor, a patch that you can put on the upper arm or even on the belly side. It's completely non-invasive. The product doesn't have anything that pinches your skin. I can show you the back of the watch. This is an optical sensor and the bioimpedance sensor around the optical sensor, which detects your skin and which makes sure that you are wearing the device. First of all, you are wearing it and you are wearing it properly. And also we have a Bluetooth connected mobile app, and we have the data resides in cloud. So it's more like a personalized well-being monitor, as we could call it, and it's a multivariate monitor. We have multiple parameters, and I'll show you. These are the different parameters that we measure. We measure the blood glucose, blood pressure, heart rate, respiration, and oxygen saturation, all from your wrist, all from the same sensor. And we have a mobile app I'm showing you here as well. This is the mobile app. This is this is our platform that we have created. We have a wristband device that I showed you with a Bluetooth connected mobile app, and we have a backend cloud support for managing and hosting and sharing, reporting the data. We also have a web portal version, a web version of the same dashboard. The advantage of this is that if someone wears this device, let's say in India, and you want to track them, the example comes to my mind is my parents. Let's say they are wearing it in India. I want to check their data in real time. I can log in from here in US. I can look at their data in real time. So the data is accessible in real time by the caregivers, loved ones, as well as we also integrate that with the healthcare dashboard with the clinics. So we completed our feasibility studies, and we are right now launching the product as a wellness preventive care focused product in international market, while in USA, because we measure glucose, blood pressure, this kind of highly medically regulated parameters, we are taking our diligence and taking it through FDA. So at this point we are only giving the devices to users as beta users, not really charging them, but more like limited beta use. But while we take it through FDA, once the FDA authorization is done, we are expecting the submissions by end of the year for glucose and blood pressure, and the authorization by mid next year, at which point we will come to market in the reimbursement path, in the remote patient monitoring based reimbursement approach, as well as we are also looking for other outlets where we can partner with companies like what Piyush will be talking about, like Ambrosia, those kind of companies, and also deliver this product.
Hello, everyone. My name is Piyush Gupta. I am founder and CEO of Ambrosia Systems. When my wife was expecting our younger daughter, she got gestational diabetes, and it was very painful for her to do finger pricks several times a day to check her glucose. And based on glucose numbers, decide what food and how much quantity she can have. It was a painful experience poking finger, calculating calories, and eating food which you just don't like. It was very difficult time for me too, as a family member who was feeling helpless for all the pain she has to go through. Also, when I was leading the product marketing team at Abbott Diabetes Care, I came across many cases where parents of young kids with type 1 diabetes were looking for a solution so that they can monitor their child's glucose reading remotely when they are at school or in playground. So I decided to do something about it and to help all expecting mothers suffering from gestational diabetes and patients with type 1 or type 2 diabetes to make their life easy. Then I left Abbott in 2016 and founded Ambrosia and made the most advanced, easy to use and affordable real-time CGM so people can see their glucose reading on phone as well as on a smartwatch. And they can share their readings on remotely with up to 5 caregivers. Still, Ambrosia real-time CGM is the only affordable real-time CGM in most low to medium income countries. So we all know about we started with glucometer. There are maybe about 100 different types of glucometers are available. And then came in about 2010, 2014, these flash glucose monitor from Abbott, where you need to scan the sensor with the phone and you will be able to see the glucose readings. But the problem in those kind of products was in the glucometer, you have to poke fingers every time you want to check the readings. And then you will know glucose reading only at that point of time. Flash glucose monitor was better because it can get you reading for the last 8 hours. But still, you have to scan it. It was not very useful for type 1 diabetic patients because in sleep, if the glucose will go very low, then they will not be able to find it. And then there are a few companies, Dexcom, Medtronic, and Sonic, they made real-time CGM. They have different type of sensor, different transmitter, different applications they are using. But most popular, if you look at in the world, is from Abbott, which is Freestyle Libre sensor. And when you use our product Bluecon with that, then it becomes like a full real-time CGM. There is another product from Dexcom system, which is used by about 18.5% market. And Medtronic and Sensonic is used by less than 0.5% market. The major difference between all these sensors is size as well as the technology. So generally, when we talk about real-time CGM, there are always like three parts. One is sensor, and which has a small filament which goes inside the body. And this sensor sticks to your body for like between 10 to 15 days, depends which sensor you are using. And then second part in a real-time CGM is a transmitter, which reads the data from the sensor and transmit it to your mobile device. Mobile device could be phone or it could be smartwatch. And then third part is basically software stack. Software stack means basic application for patients, application for the caregiver, and a web platform for the providers. So in our case, we use a third-party glucose sensor, Freestyle Libre, and we have our own Nitrida Glucon, and we have our software stack like mobile application for patients and caregivers. Basically, they can monitor glucose readings remotely, which is very important for the insulin-dependent diabetic patients, both type 1 and type 2. With the help of real-time CGM, people can see glucose readings, changes in the glucose reading, and how they are impacted with the different foods and different activities, which was not possible with the glucometer, we call it. And reason is, how many times you can poke your finger. You have it's painful and it's expensive. If you poke your finger 10 times, 20 times, it becomes more and more expensive. Second is, in the real-time CGM, we have alarms. You can set high and low alarms, and you can set alarms for very low reading when reading is going below 40. So it can wake you up. At the same time, it can transmit your glucose reading to your caregiver. So this is in our case, we use Abbott Freestyle Libre sensor as an input device to our CGM, and we have our own device, Glucon, which works with the Libre and sends the glucose data to phone and smartwatch. Interesting part is type 1 diabetes is more common in young kids than the adults. And all solution, whatever is available in the market, whether it's a Dexcom, Abbott, or Medtronic or Sensonic, they work only with the phone. If you want to get the reading on the watch, you still need phone all the time. But kids who are between 5 to 11 or 12-year-old, it is not possible for them to carry phone all the time with them to school or to playground. So after I left Abbott, then we developed a solution with the help of this device, Glucon, to transmit glucose reading direct to smartwatches, so that these little kids can wear a smartwatch, and then their parents can use the caregiver application remotely to readings. In fact, caregivers can also set alarms in their application to see changes in the glucose reading, or if glucose reading is too low or too high, it will alert them. So these are few screens from our application link Glucon, which is for patients, where you can see the readings. In fact, ours is the only sensor out of Dexcom or Abbott, which you can calibrate, and you will be able to see two lines. One is calibrated reading, the purple one, and the blue one is non-calibrated value. There is a button you can tap to calibrate the readings. And for calibration, generally we ask people to do it when your glucose readings are very stable. We also have options where people can enter whatever food they are having, or whatever insulin or any medication or exercise they are having. On history screen, they can see their last 30 days glucose readings. And here what Alodhi was talking about, both exercise or heartbeat or heart rate information related with glucose. So here we already we integrated this, where you can see how glucose is changing with the oxygen levels and different exercise you are doing. For type 2 diabetic patients especially, this is very useful to figure out, with the help of real-time CGM, which foods are impacting their glucose more than the other foods, so that they can decide whether they want to increase this quantity of that particular food or decrease this quantity, which helps in reversing their or type 2 diabetes remission. There are many companies in India who started using our platform for the same purpose. In this application, you can also set different alarms based on your requirement, and you can decide whether you want to display calibrated value or non-calibrated value, or you want to share calibrated value or non-calibrated value with your caregivers. And you can connect, you can run the application with the help of this option on watch or smartphone. This was mainly for real-time use, real-time CGM in diabetes. But these days, many people are also using these real-time CGM in metabolic health and in fitness. So we developed a application, Champions, which is for that purpose. Many people are using our application, Champions, to lose weight or keep track of their weight or improve their fitness. So generally, so far, what is happening in the healthcare, many people are using different variables, and they are also using different mobile applications, but this data is not transmitted to the health service providers. So we developed a patented data collaboration platform where we are getting data from all these medical devices and health and mobile apps, and passing this information in the form of different modules to these health service providers. And we are building a recommendation engine to help people find which food is good for their health, especially that is very helpful for type 1 and type 2 diabetic patients, even for pre-diabetic people. And we are using artificial intelligence to predict the glucose level for the next 1 hour so that people can manage their diabetes better in place of taking insulin, and then when glucose will go down, then eat something and which is not good for their body.
So again, we were talking about creating a system that we can, sustain and also work on unshackling ourselves from metabolic disease and type 2 diabetes. And before I go further, I saw a question in the chat about someone posting that their physician had said type 2 diabetes is not, there's no way to reverse it, and you just take medications. So again, individual, case-to-case basis situations can vary. I'm not generalizing or giving specific medical advice here, but if I can share just one study, which was done actually way back in 1979 at NIH, National Institutes of Health up in Maryland, where they actually took 20 patients with type 2 diabetes who were on insulin, and they were put on a whole food plant-based way of eating. And this is a metabolic unit, so everything is measured. There is no food being sneaked in. There is no changes, no variables that are left to options. Everything is tracked and controlled. And within 16 days, not weeks or months, 16 days, there was substantial reduction in the insulin requirements for the patients. Of those 20 patients, 9 were able to come off insulin, and 11 were able to cut down their insulin requirements substantially. And keep in mind, the thing that people commonly say, oh, you lose weight, and hence you were able to improve your sugars and diabetes. No, this study was designed where they actually kept the patients so fed fed very well that, with food, that they did not lose weight. But in spite of not losing weight, they were able to see that change in their insulin requirements going down substantially in just a matter of 16 days. There are many studies, again, I'm not going to go too geeky, but there is research involving many decades looking at bench research, epidemiological research, randomized control trials, meta-analysis, and population studies where people living long, healthy lives, what are they doing? And each of those different 5 types of data point towards one common direction, which is a predominantly whole plant-based way of eating and lifestyle. So, there are 4 aspects of our health. One is nutrition. Second is the things that can improve your insulin sensitivity, which has different aspects. And then how do we deal with stress, because that's a huge factor in your emotional health. Briefly, again, we'll talk more about the course, but this is just a little glimpse of what is possible. The course that Som is mentioning about, the type 2 diabetes challenger course that we have created, is actually very comprehensive. It involves understanding about metabolic disease and type 2 diabetes, how it actually develops, and what is going on, understanding about how we can work on step-by-step improving it, from the part of nutrition, from the part of activity, sleep management, how to track your metrics, which again, Dr. Sanyal and Piyush Gupta's products are great additions, and to that aspect of the metabolic health, how to track, and how to track those things, and bring it up with your physicians and healthcare providers so you can safely cut back on medications in a safer manner while you're doing these changes, so you don't get low blood sugars, low blood pressures, or end up injuring yourself. And then also there is contributions of an excellent dietitian, Timari Hagenberger. She talks about what practical food changes you can work on. And then there's a module by the health heroes who talk about their journey of type 2 diabetes reversal. So you have a support system, you do different exercises in each modules, and then we'll have a live session later on if you decide to go for the challenger aspect. There's a DIY aspect, and then there's a challenger aspect. So Som will, I think, share more about the course, but that's kind of a glimpse of what I'm going to share in the next few minutes is just a small portion of what you'll be getting in the course. So again, one other study, so let me give you a context here. This study shows 34% reduction in risk of type 2 diabetes when you consume nutrient-dense whole plant foods. Now, if there is a pharmaceutical product, a medication that showed a 10% or a 20% reduction in the risk, it would be considered a humongous success. Here we have 34% risk reduction with eating the right foods, and so it is way better. And again, I'm not giving any personal advice here, and I'm not telling you to stop your medications either, but what I'm sharing is what is possible and how we can step by step work on the journey of reversal. By the way, the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, which I'm a diplomat and member of, has a phenomenal guideline on type 2 diabetes reversal. A very expert panel of physicians got together and have written up based on evidence. So anybody who has physicians or providers who are still in the mindset that type 2 diabetes is not reversible, like I said, individual cases vary, they should be guided towards that excellent resource from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. How can we sensitize the effect of insulin in the body? And there are a few ways we can do that, so we can get an augmented benefit of the lifestyle changes. Intermittent fasting, and I have the image of the monk there because in a way it's also a very meditative practice because it allows you to gain more self-control and also help you understand the difference between cravings, food cravings, and hunger. Hunger is when you've been kept away from food for 2 days, and the first thing you see, you will completely clean it out, right? You're really hungry, that's hunger. Whereas food cravings are where you are asking for specific food items or wanting to eat specific food items even after eating a full meal. So we want to avoid the cravings and not be hungry as also at the same time. So intermittent fasting, again, there are many ways of fasting. It could be a whole separate talk by itself, but briefly, eating along with the sun. So eating in the middle of the day and not eating after 7 p.m. If your schedule doesn't allow wrap up before 7, then hard stop should be 8 p.m. So you at least get 2 hours or maybe 3 hours of no food before you go to sleep. Because your sleep is where your body restores your health. And if you have consumed something late night, your liver, which is the main metabolic organ and also the detoxifying organ, that has to pull a third shift to digest that food, which was not on agenda. So think of it this way: if the garbage truck doesn't come to your place, we can handle it. Maybe for a week you can manage it. If it doesn't come for 1 month, that's problem. If it doesn't come for 6 months, that's a very big problem. Same thing, our body needs to clean itself, and liver has to do that job every night. And if it gets, side changed because of having to digest food, then you're building up toxins. That's where your sleep quality takes a beating. That's where you feel tired waking up. You lose, your energy. So it's a tumbling down effect. So follow the sun and try to not eat after 7 p.m. or maybe 8. Rolling into the sleep, right? We want to get the baby sleep again. And we do things actually in our modern lifestyle that takes us away from that. We are on, blue light devices. Again, it's late here in Florida, so excuse me for doing that. But, we get blue light exposures, which kills our melatonin. That's the pigment, not pigment, the molecule that's released in our body that allows us to fall asleep, stay asleep, is also a very cancer preventing molecule. So it has multiple impacts. So melatonin release goes down. And so making sure you're at least having 30 minutes to an hour of zone before bedtime where you don't have any blue light exposure. And if you do absolutely have to expose yourself for whatever reason, then get a set of blue light blocker glasses so you can at least reduce the blue light exposure. Creating a routine where you take a shower, do some journaling, again, in yellow light, not blue light, at a desk, or just, do something that helps you unwind, like some relaxing music. So creating a routine, and also as you're working on your food, they work hand in hand, because if you don't address your sleep, even the best food changes will still not show you the benefits. And likewise, if you can, work on your sleep and the food, you'll see a synergistic, even more effect in improving your sugars. And the last thing I'll also mention is the quality of sleep is more important than the quantity of sleep. Activity, again, the course talks more about, but what is activity versus what is exercise? You don't have to spend hours in the gym. You could target and do specific activities throughout the day that can actually get you more benefit without having to work your ass off in the gym. Sorry for my French there. Something as simple as going for a 10-15 minute walk after dinner. You get fresh air, you unwind yourself, and you get better utilization of the insulin that your body is producing or what you may be injecting. And so you get better sugars, you actually need less insulin. So keeping track of your sugars with all the technology devices we talked about can be very effective in helping you be proactive. Stress management, I've kept it as a separate aspect. Again, it's an insulin sensitizer, but I've kept it separately because it's a huge factor. It can single-handedly make or break your health. And I'm not talking about the good stress where we are stimulated by things around us, we are challenged by different things at work and whatnot. That's the stress we need to feel alive. But when you feel like you're constantly underwater, you constantly feel like you're getting worse and worse, and you can get a handle on your things through the life, and you feel down and down, and your body is pumping all these stress hormones, that's chronic stress. And chronic stress is what can literally kill you. So it is important to address that. Again, nothing overnight, but we start with something and then build on that. There are so many techniques across the world. There is yoga. Again, it's a whole system in itself. It's not about just fancy postures. It's about the whole lifestyle and taking control of your breathing with pranayama practices. Even simple things like 5 minutes of pranayama on a daily basis can do wonders in helping you lower the stress that your body perceives. Again, it's not the situation changes. It's how your body responds to that situation that determines the chronic stressors. So pranayama is a great tool. Yoga is a phenomenal. There is tai chi, there is qigong. There are so many different systems across the east where we can create whole mind body health. And so that's important to address and work on that step by step. and improve your health. Why do you want to make these changes? Because unless you have a why, the first three pillars do not help you sustain it. And there's just a brief example here. So there's a guy named Roger Bannister. You see, he's an athlete. And before he broke the record of running a mile under 4 minutes, no one had ran a mile under 4 minutes. And after he ran that mile under 4 minutes, there were dozens of people who actually kept breaking the record further. And nothing changed. It's just the mindset that people who now knew that there's a human being who was able to run 1 mile under 4 minutes, and now they can do it too. And that's the only thing that changed before and after Roger Bannister. So our mindset and the why, figuring out your why, and the support system, those are the things that actually connects to the whole lifestyle change.
Basically, a person who has been championing wellness across corporate leaders, including companies like Volvo and Tiva. And he's also the founder of Global Integrated Wellness Network. So over to you, Dinesh. Tell us, what is this sugar march you're talking about and how you are actually helping people to get transformed?
Sugar march, inspired by Gandhiji's idea. He called it sugar as white poison. And now I know why he called it. So on October 2nd, we are organizing a march starting in Kanpur, working with Kanpur Parivartan Forum, and also the Indian Medical Association, Dr. Pankaj Gulati there. And the idea is to let people be aware. We're going to start this march hopefully from Thaggu Ke Laddu, who is known for sweets, but their founder was also a follower of Gandhi. And he also believed that sugar is a white poison. And that's why he kept the name Thaggu Ke Laddu. And so he's saying that, look, people, don't eat sugar. It's a poison. You are coming to me, and I know I'm not telling you the truth. But if you want it, I'll give it to you. So how can we make people aware? Sugar is probably more addictive than alcohol and any drugs I know, because people are aware of the problem with alcohol and other drugs, but they're not aware of the problem sugar is causing. So I'm not going to eat broccoli and spinach, and I'm not going to drink the smoothie if I'm addicted to sugar. So that's why we are trying to create awareness against sugar.
This question is from Ashish, and he's saying that how can blood glucose be monitored without an invasive device, like a Dexcom, as a continuous monitoring system? I'm not able to logically understand that. It would be great if you can help me develop that understanding of how blood glucose can be measured in a non-invasive manner. So that's the question.
Excellent question, Ashish. It's in the literature of analytical chemistry, it is very well known that there are multiple wavelengths of light that goes through your skin, and as they traverse through the underskin to the capillary layer between the epidermis and dermis layers of under your skin, the tissues have different analytes. The tissue has primarily water. Also, it has glucose. It has different forms of protein, fat molecules as well. So these wavelengths of light that we shine through your skin, they are composed of different wavelengths. The light is composed of different wavelengths, and at a particle view of the light, you can consider them as a volume of photons that you are essentially injecting through your skin. So photons traverse with a specific wavelength of their own, and the analytes, the molecules that are in the tissue, those analytes, those molecules also have their own frequency of vibration with which they vibrate. So when a photon comes very close to a molecule whose frequency of vibration is close to the photon's own wavelength and the frequency of vibration, the photon's energy gets absorbed in that molecule. So we lose that photon. So as a result, if you shine or if you inject a volume of photons through skin, you will retrieve back only a part of the photons. The remaining photons get absorbed by different molecules of different kind of frequency of vibration. So specific wavelengths, for example, the one that we use on our device, 940 nanometer infrared, that is primarily absorbed by water molecule itself, the OH bonds, but also it is absorbed by the glucose molecules and their bonds, for example, the CH, OH, C3H, those kind of bonds. So the loss of photons that happen during this source to detection point traversal of the photons, primarily because of this absorption. So it's called absorption spectroscopy, very well known. The problem gets complex when there are multiple analytes that are absorbing the same photons with same wavelengths. For example, 940 nanometer is a good example, primarily absorbed by water. It's a huge water peak. 99.5% absorption happens by water molecules. Only 0.1 to 0.3% gets absorbed by the glucose. So it's the response that you capture on the photodetector is primarily a water response, a very teeny glucose response on top of it. So from the signal and noise perspective, it's a very low signal to noise ratio waveform. The signal is very low, noise is very high. So how can you deal with that kind of signal where the signal itself the proper response is very low, the noisy response is very high, and how you can amplify the signal part of it and how you can work with it. So that's where our primary IP are related to. I mean, we did 3-4 important things with this signal. First of all, we figured out multiple ways of filtering out different forms of noise. And noise could be the ambient light that is coming from the sides of the watch, other than the actual light itself. The ambient light, the ambient temperature, sweat, hair follicles, skin tone, and then under at a molecular level, the glucose versus water. So all this we found out, we came out with quite a few different filters to remove as much noise as possible. Next layer was how to amplify the glucose response in the residual signal. And the third part is basically we collected a huge volume of restored PPG, photoplethysmogram signal.
Biomarkers and range of certain readings. What would be your take on the accuracy? So that's for the question from Soumya.
Thank you, Shamia. So our current glucose focus is as we know that the entire dynamic range of the glucose monitoring is 50 to 400 milligram per deciliter. That's the range considered by the fingerstick glucometers as well as the continuous glucose monitors. For our first submission to FDA, we are limiting this dynamic range to 90 to 230 milligram per deciliter. So we are looking at the mid part, although reasonably wide, the mid part of the glucose spectrum. Primarily, this is the part in which all the normoglycemic and all the pre-diabetic and a good 30-40% of the type 2 diabetic population will stay most of their day, most of the time. So we are keeping 90 to 230 as our first dynamic range of consideration. We'll be later on widening it further, making it full-blown 50 to 400 mgdl, and this is primarily targeted not for the insulin dosing purposes or medication purposes, but more for the learning your meal, learning your activity, learning your sleep, learning your emotion conditioning, for those kind of aspects. The real-time glucose data will really help you, and slowly we will keep on generating the actionable insights from our cloud-based, AI-based analytics. So that's the target that we are focusing right now.
Question for Ambrosia has been that if we have Libre, then why should we use the thing? So we just tried to say that how you have been with Libre and then building on that. So you can elaborate that, Piyush. And then Alodip, the question for you was on the cost part. BK wanted to say it's of course the accuracy is one factor, but the other factor is the cost part. So these are the two questions for you.
Definitely, like Libre is a really good product, and all real-time CGM, Dexcom, Medtronic, and Sonic are great. The only difference is all freestyle. So Libre has many versions, maybe about 8 to 10 different versions. They have Libre Pro, they have Libre Freestyle Libre 1, Freestyle Libre 2, Freestyle Libre 3. And they have Libre sensor different in different countries. And all of these sensors needs NFC phone to start. While when you use our product, our solution, you don't need NFC. It works through the Bluetooth and all. Second, only Libre 3 and part of Libre 2 works through the Bluetooth phone. And if you are, and in most of the places, the sensor available are Libre Pro, Libre 1, Libre 2, they does not support the Bluetooth. While our product, Bluecon, converts all sensors into a full real-time CGM. Third point is, our application is number one in the market. It's better than Dexcom, it's better than Medtronic, Sensonic, and Libre. And reason why it's better, because it can show you how different foods are impacting your glucose level. This is one. Second, how different activities, physical activity or stress, how they are impacting your glucose levels. So all that information you can get in our application link Bluecon when you are using it with the Libre sensor and the Bluecon. Third
So
is,
you might like to put your email and the website also as there.
sure,
right?
I will.
So yeah, so people who might like to look
Definitely.
at and some use cases they would like to know, so they can get in touch with you, so you can do that. Yeah.
Sure. And another thing is, we are able to bring down the cost of real-time CGM from $2,000 for Libre and about $6,000 for Dexcom and Medtronic to less than $1,000. And in India, as I mentioned earlier, and many other low and medium income countries, Ambrosia real-time CGM is the only option for type 1, type 2 diabetic patients, even for pre-diabetic or gestational diabetic patients.
Hey Piyush, why don't you tell a story about somebody using it, a family
Oh,
or some sort of?
There are so
that
many
would be
people.
great. Yeah, people can
Yeah.
connect. Yeah. So wonderful story.
So just one example is, there was one kid in India, in Gurgaon, and he's 5-6 year old, and he's type 1 diabetic. So school denied admission to him because they said, we cannot take care of kid because he needs insulin, he needs monitoring continuously. And then somebody told this child's father about Ambrosia product, Bluecon, and application, basically Ambrosia real-time CGM. And he contacted us, and we gave him a demo, and then he spoke to his principal, and then school allowed him admission. And this is not the one case. There are so many cases like that.
I fell short of mentioning about talking about the accuracy last time when I was answering the accuracy related question. So I was talking about the dynamic range, the mid part dynamic range that we are focusing first with this restored product, non-invasive product, 90 to 230 mgdl. But the accuracy is within 15% with respect to Dexcom. So we did study against Dexcom, we did study against fingerstick. Consistently, both against Dexcom and fingerstick, we are within 15% of the
Terrific.
Dexcom readings of the fingerstick.
That
Next
helps.
question was on, thank you.
Cost. Yeah, the cost.
Next question was on cost. Since we have not launched yet in US market, it's a little hard for me to give you an exact number, but I can tell you the way we are thinking about the pricing. It will have device price, which will be somewhere definitely way less than the consumable based products like Abbott or Dexcom or Medtronic. It will be below $500, the device cost. And then we will have, because we manage a high volume of data and we do analytics, so because of that we'll have a subscription component which will be somewhere between $200 to $300 per year. So that amortized cost over a year for like 5 years of usage will be less than $500.
One question is that is hair fall related to the increase in sugar level?
I think it's multifactorial. Your sleep quality plays a big role. If your sleep is affected, you are going through any acute stressors or even chronic stressors that are not well mitigated, the first casualty is hair and your sleep quality. You could have thyroid issues going on that can play a role. You could have vitamin D level being low. Low vitamin D is very common actually across the globe. Sugar per se directly not so much connected to hair follicles, but all these other factors are more so.
How to treat insomnia and sleep? I lie down in the bed for 8-9 hours. I track my sleep, but ultimately I get 5 to 6 hours sleep. And if being diabetic, that definitely impacts me. So any tricks or
So,
tips for
like
me.
I shared when I was talking about sleep, it starts with what are we doing before we go to bed. So there's a concept called the sleep buffer zone. And we need to create a buffer zone between our whatever we're doing through the day into the evening hours and before we go to sleep. And ideally, I would like an hour of buffer zone, but practically speaking, if you can even create a 30-minute buffer zone where you go away from blue light devices, you take a warm shower. The warm shower benefits because when you do warm shower, it increases blood flow through your arms and legs, and that drops your core body temperature. And that's the effect that is very similar to melatonin in helping us fall asleep. So we need to drop the core body temperature. And so that quick warm shower can be unwinding and very relaxing. Listening to relaxing music, that again, no jazzy rock, music, but classical or Indian classical music actually has different rags, which are supposed to be played or heard in the evening hours, and I also can work on your sleep quality. So whichever modality you work on, and then not having blue light in your bedroom, not having TV in your bedroom. If you need to read something, read a physical book that is not too exciting, not on a Kindle or a tablet, and maybe journaling can be very helpful in relaxing and unwinding from the day, because the common theme that I hear from patients all the time is I cannot shut off my brain. I'm always thinking, or I fall asleep and then I wake up at 1 a.m. and then I just keep thinking and thinking and thinking. Is because your body is asleep, but your brain is still active. So you need to allow your brain to unwind.
What are the 3 top ways of preventing diabetes? So we can talk about the clinical as well as other ways. Yeah, tracking, etc. Yeah. So would you like to start, Piyush?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's a great question. So when we talk about preventing, it's about the type 2 diabetes. And type 2 diabetes is mainly lifestyle issue. And when we talk about lifestyle, there are 2 major things: what we are eating and what activities we are doing. So if we can take care of these 2 things, then you will not become diabetic. And to take care of those things, like what you should eat and what you should not eat, there are the solution what Dr. Aladeep is working on, and what Ambrosia has, like real-time CGM, which is giving you information about whatever food you are eating, how that is impacting your glucose. And you don't need to use those kind of solution, especially our solution, 24/7 for 365 days. Use it only for for a month, and then you figure out what food is good for you or what not. Then stop using it, and then basically you will be able to figure out which foods are good, and then which are not good. You can just cut down the quantity, and that will help you a lot. Second thing is physical activity. Even in our application, and same for Dr. Aladeep's application, what he's developing, you can keep track of your physical activity and how that is impacting your glucose levels. So I think the technology which is coming up and which is already here is going to be very helpful if you are making best use of it. If you don't want to, move from your seat, nobody can help you, honestly.
What I wanted to add on top of that is that where he ended, that ultimately a person will make the decision of their lifestyle changes themselves. If someone doesn't want to make those changes, then nothing will really happen. And Dinesh also talked on that direction, that it ultimately has to do with the willpower of that individual. That I am too indulged in eating sweet, or not having enough sleep, or blah blah blah, or having a sedentary lifestyle. Where can I get the push to really get out of those habits which are not really helpful for the long term health, and do something better? I think one additional aspect that I wanted to mention is, and also, Dr. Soham will also agree with me. I was telling the same thing to Pankaj I met a couple of days back, that when, as a doctor, as an internist, or as an endocrinologist, when you identify someone with glucose intolerance at the pre-diabetes level, let's say, you don't typically immediately put them on some medication. You give them lifestyle advices, and
Yeah.
not, and patients come out of the clinic. They don't really think that, oh, doctor told me something, I'm not going to follow it. More than 90% of the people don't feel that way. They feel, yeah, I will give it a serious try. But what happens is after trying it for a week, 2 weeks, since there is no real-time data or a support,
your tracking will help, right? That's what you're saying.
that's what I'm saying.
And I think that has sensitized people. Sorry to cut you. We just have few minutes. Okay. So Aladip, the reason I want to ask you this question is that there's another question which has come for you. So maybe you would like to cover that cost very quickly. So the prices that you mentioned below $500, it still may be high for certain sections, right? If you want to make it a mass product. Any thoughts how you want to do it?
Yeah. We have been looking at a second form factor, which is not going to be a smartwatch, not going to be having many additional functionalities which are not core to the multivariate health tracking. So we are actively looking into a second form factor, which could be a band without any display or a very minimalist kind of display, where the cost of the production can be brought down significantly. And that is a mass market product form factor that we have been thinking, especially targeting developing countries like our own country and other countries in mind.